Good day, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner. This is episode number 280, and I am welcoming with me today two very special guests. They are joining to discuss Two for the Road, a story about Barry Morse and also his wife, Sydney. And they are authors Robert Wood and Anthony Wynn. Welcome, guys. How are you doing today?
Hey, great, Roy. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for being on. And we are broadcasting at a special time a little earlier. And just want to say to the folks that are out there, hello, that are starting to join us. In fact, Dennis Chevalier is joining us from Canada. And I see he just commented and he said hello. So wanted to put that out there as well, too. So, yeah, before we get started and start to talk about the book and everything, I thought it would be really cool if we could talk about your relationship in regards to Barry Morse, because I know you had a special friendship, and it goes back many years, and kind of how everything just evolved from that to present day. So I would really love to share that with the viewers out there and just to learn more about that.
Well, I'll love to, and I'm going to let Tony do that. But just first, I just wanted to comment. Before we came on, you have your 30-second countdown visual, and I'm not sure if the audience gets to see that as well.
They do.
They do. Okay. So during that countdown, you've got what look like pieces of snow floating upward instead of falling downward. And it reminds me of something that Barry talked about years ago when he was talking about his concept of what is science fiction. And he said it could be as simple as something of, if you dropped a pen or a piece of paper, what if it floated up instead of falling down? And so there you go. I just wanted to say that because there's a tiny little thing related to Barry's opinion about what is science fiction. And I thought about that while I was watching your 30-second countdown.
That's cool. See, the connection is there. Hey, I just want to say, besides Dennis being out there, Shari's joining us downstairs, and she says, hello, Robert and Anthony. Can't wait to read this book. And you'll be able to, hon, because it came today. Shari is working today, so perfect timing. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that, too, Bob. Appreciate that.
Yeah. But, yes, I'll let Tony go ahead.
Well, I think it started way back in 95, 96. I was in Portland, Oregon at the time, and I was involved with a group there called the Friends of the Parkinson Center. And we wanted to do an event, something that would be both a fundraiser and an awareness raiser for Parkinson's disease in the Portland, Oregon area community. And we came up with the idea of mounting A.R. Gurney's play Love Letters, which have been done on Broadway and has been since it's been done around the country in many places. But we had the idea of inviting Barry to come to Portland, knowing that his wife, Sydney, had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And to make a long story short, he agreed. He came to Portland. He did the show with another science fiction television legend, June Lockhart. And it turned out to be a wonderful production. And that's where Robert and I first met. and
in person, because we knew each other ahead of that through fan circles at the time.
Exactly.
But that was the first time that we met in person, and there were a bunch of other wonderful friends there at that performance as well. Terry Bowers is another one who comes to mind.
Yeah. Rosie Badgett, another well-known person in Space 1999 fandom.
Yes.
Was there. There were a number of Fugitive fans from the Fugitive television series that also came out. It was a real gathering of fans who came out to see the show. So that was a lot of fun.
And I have a couple little tiny memories of when we were producing that play with Barry and June Lockhart. I recall that June needed to have, she wanted a dressing room, which wherever we were, there weren't proper dressing rooms. And so we had to improvise and create a dressing room for her. Of course, you need a mirror in a dressing room, and there weren't mirrors. So what could we do? Terry Bowers and I were tasked with getting a mirror. So we discovered clandestinely that the mirrors in the men's room could be removed from the wall with a screwdriver because they were just sort of, attached. So we liberated the mirror from the men's room, and we put it to June Lockhart's dressing room. And then after the play was done, we put it back again in the men's room.
It's funny. We were just talking about improvising, right? Earlier.
Yeah. That's one thing I remember having fun doing. Another thing that Terry and I did was with the set. We had, I remember the theater people left us alone that weekend. They weren't there. I don't think they were there at all. But I remember that we were given a walkthrough, and we were told about the beautiful wood paneled backdrop behind the set, behind the back of the stage, and how we were instructed, not to bang anything into it. But Barry wanted a picture hung on that wall behind them. And so who would we listen to? The stage people, the theater people, or Barry? Of course, we had to listen to Barry. And so I do remember Terry Bowers and I banging a nail in that beautiful wood backdrop and hanging a picture.
Yes, the days before self-adhesive wall hangers, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. It must have been. And I have one more memory about that time producing that play, which was that we needed a set. We needed furniture for the set, and we needed a big desk, and we needed 2 very nice chairs. And where to get them? It was coming down to the wire, and I remember Tony and I were talking about the different possibilities of what can we do, and it was too late to be able to try and get a sponsor or somebody to contribute them. So I said, well, let's just go to a nice furniture store and I'll buy them, and just make sure that they have a really good return policy. So we went out and we bought the furniture for the set, made sure they had a really good return policy, and used it on stage, and then returned it the Monday or the Sunday or Monday after the show. Yeah. So these are the kinds of things that we would do in order to pull these productions off.
Right. Again, improvising.
Yeah.
Before we go on, I just want to say hi to Michelle Diato. She's joining us from Connecticut, and she's saying hi.
Hello.
And also Randy Lee's out there. He's joining us from Wisconsin.
You're not late.
And Jeff Curley is also out there, and he's joining us from Texas. So I just wanted to get that in there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, hi, and again, thanks everybody for joining us today. So yeah, and I think actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think Lou Place might have been at that event, because I think I remember him telling me about it.
That sounds right. Yeah.
I think Lou was there. Joyce Chico, some other people as well. There was a nice little group of us. It was a really great time. Wow. But that was our first time with Barry, and we got along terrifically. Very, very simpatico relationship began during that particular time in Portland.
We did, and he was so giving, and so willing to do all of the publicity for the show, going to radio stations, TV stations, He worked himself to death. He directed the play. The Parkinson's Center there in Portland was absolutely thrilled with Barry and with the production. So much so that we invited Barry to come back. Was it 2 years later? I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 2 years later to do his one-man show, Merely Players. And he performed that in both Portland and Eugene. It's a couple hours south of Portland. And it was during that time that Robert and I had the idea to approach Barry about the possibility of a biography, writing a biography about him, because we had known that he sort of expressed that he didn't really want to write a memoir, and so we put together a proposal, presented it to him.
And that was probably prompted by the fact that we heard him telling us so many amazing stories during this time together. And that's what, so these have to be put down. These have to be archived for people to be able to enjoy.
Yeah.
Well, and he was from before. I mean, Barry was born in I think, is it 1915?
1919.
1919, yes. And so, I mean, the history and everything.
1918.
1918.
Yeah, we'll get it right.
my bad. 1918. Yeah. So, I mean, the history, I mean, you talk about his involvement even with, not only television, but the stage work and everything that he had done. And, it's incredible. Yeah. I mean, I had the fortune of meeting him twice, and it was in Los Angeles in 1999 when he was at the 1999 convention. That was my first time I met him, and then I also met him in 2000, and just so gracious. And again, I mentioned Lou Place. Lou and I have been friends since 1987, and I remember him telling me stories about Barry, just how he was and how he was just so welcoming to the fans, and just he was like the grandpa, I mean, of everybody, just in regards to the way he was. So knowing that you had the opportunity to meet him at this level, I know Parkinson's was very important to him in regards to Sydney. I remember hearing the stories about, how she had, developed that. And you said this was in 95. So my understanding is she had Parkinson's for about 14 years, sadly, before she passed. So I guess she had been dealing with this for at least 10 years. When you had met him. So this was something that was very, close and very important to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we put that proposal together, as Tony was saying, and then Barry graciously, talked to us about it. It was very open about it, and essentially said he would go back and he would talk to Sydney and he would talk to his kids and see if they agreed that he should do it.
Right.
And the answer was yes.
And then not only that, he came back and said he would like it to be a memoir, an autobiography,
right,
as opposed to a biography. And so that sort of changed things around a little bit. And he decided that he would record and send us cassette tapes. And he started at the beginning of his life, and he worked all the way through his life, recording 80 or 90 tapes, double-sided. Yeah. And that's where the book came from, the original autobiography.
Yeah. And of course, that process took a long time. It was years. Just even the receiving of the audio cassettes took a really long time, the recording of them. And so over that time, we continued to do other things with Barry, and the whole relationship just kept growing. We did at various times, I mean, we'd have to work out the chronology on everything, but we did a series of conventions in the Eastern US, which were called Volcon conventions. We did those in places like Atlanta and several other locations.
Tampa, Cincinnati, I think.
Yeah, and when we were doing those, Barry would do a performance of Merely Players, his one-man show, which we were essentially, the road crew for, the assistants for. And we were flying to be his handlers for each of these appearances, helping with the autographs and all those sorts of things.
Wow.
He did autograph shows in L.A., the Beverly Garland autograph shows. We did those with him at least twice, if not 3 times.
Yeah.
I recall. Space 999 conventions during that time. We did the productions of, we did the TV production of Merely Players,
Right.
which was done in Oregon as well. That was a separate occasion when Barry came, along with his daughter Melanie, came down from Canada as well. So we spent that time with Barry and Melanie, and it was wonderful to get to meet and spend time with her also.
Yeah. Now, in regards to, I want to ask you a question. In regards to his one-man show, was that something that he had been working on for a long period of time, or what? How did that come about?
His one-man show, he began that back in was the first production in the 50s, Tony, or
Yeah, I think the very first production was in like 1958, 58, 59. Then he did several performances of it in the mid-60s. But it really gelled into its final form when he did a national tour of Canada in the early 80s. I think it was 83, 84, that time frame.
84, I think.
Okay.
And that was a fascinating experience in his life because it was sort of the culmination of the one-man show, doing this cross-Canada tour in order to raise money for a retirement home for actors and people in the entertainment profession. Because, as he knew, as people in the profession know, most people in the performing arts live with earnings under the poverty line, and they have to do other jobs in order to make ends meet, and they retire without very much, most people in that industry. So Barry was very keen to assist with that, and he did this tour, and he funded it himself. He guaranteed it himself, and the tale of that is very interesting, and unfortunately very ultimately sad because it was essentially a tour of 1 or 2 night stands, and they were not ultimately financially successful. He had to call the tour off partway through because by that point he had lost whatever the number was, tens of thousands of dollars from his own pocket, and couldn't afford to keep it going with any responsibility to his family and to his wife. So it was something that really mystified him, why it wasn't a success. The reviews were glowing, the audiences loved it, but in order to get people to come to this sort of one night stand things across the country proved to be, at that point, almost impossible to do. And so we had to cancel it. Media was very different then. I mean, maybe if you did it now, it would be, the word of mouth can spread so easily now.
You took the words out of my mouth, Bob. I was going to say, because with marketing, I mean, it was a different era. Now with the internet and everything and getting the word out, it's almost like lighting a match.
Yeah.
The way it can just spread so easily. And just back in the day, and it kind of ties into what we're talking, what we're going to be talking about too, with your, with the book and everything, just writing letters and not sending emails. It's a different process, and
people don't even send emails now. It's a text. And it's not even words. It's abbreviated letters and numbers.
Exactly. I mean, it's gone to that level. I want to say hi to John. John is joining us, and he's saying, John, it's good to see you out there too. Thanks for coming on. And he said, hi, y'all. Huge Barry Morse fan. So he just wanted to say that. And Shari just commented. She said, when Roy introduced me to space, I remember saying, who is that actor who plays Victor? As an actor myself, I appreciated his wonderful acting ability. I wish I could have seen him in a live play.
Well, Shari,
he did many live plays.
He did. Oh, he did so many through his career, at huge numbers of plays. I mean, beginning when he was in repertory theater, and was doing multiple, incredible numbers of plays. We'll talk about that when we get to the Two for the Road book. But what else do you want to say, Tony, in terms of our time with Barry and all the projects we worked on? And
Well, it was just an incredible, really incredible experience. Something that I never imagined in my life would have happened. But just everything from working with him in the theater productions, on books, on recordings, on television productions,
audio production, we did.
Audio, yeah.
Yep. Beautiful audio production called Rogues and Vagabonds.
Yeah. He was just a wonderful mentor, I think, to both of us, and ultimately a great friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very, 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 it was an incredibly close, beautiful friendship that developed over all those years. We spent so much time together in so many different places, and it was really, really special, incredibly special, and much, and it was. I've been friends with some other people from Space 929. Christopher Penfold was, absolutely wonderful, wonderful man and wonderful mentor and a great friend. There was something extra, and that's not taking anything away from Chris, but there was something extra special about Barry, because he had such concern for us. It was like he was a parent, not just a person who we were working with.
Right.
He would be very concerned about how much money we were spending, how much time we were spending devoted to working with him, to doing things for him. And he would occasionally, go so far as to send a check out of the blue saying, well, I know you're spending money on this and that, and here's something to help, And one time it came from his daughter, Melanie, and she said, Barry said to send this. And she said, there's no point fighting him on it. Take it. I remember the first time he sent a check to me, I said to him, I called him and said, I'm not going to cash it. I'm going to frame it. But he said, no, cash it. Yeah. So, it was just, he was so concerned about us and didn't want us to be, devoting our lives to him and missing out on, and not making money and whatever in our own lives. So he's just very, very concerned, very, very, he was just a wonderful, wonderful friend. And, then as he got older, there were other elements involved there too, because we were so close with not just Barry, but we were very close with his son Hayward throughout that time as well. So we were, we were very in tune with what was happening with Barry, and then ultimately, I don't know if I'm skipping too far ahead if I go to when he passed away.
No, please.
He passed away, and Barry's wish when he passed away was that his body be donated to science, and that was accomplished. And then after a period of time, its body being, presumably used for, medical students, which is vitally important. Medical students, when they're going through college, university for learning surgeries and things, they can't just do it theoretically, and they can't just do it with plastic models. At some point, they need to work with human bodies, and so Barry wanted his body to be used for science and for medical benefits. So that happened, and then eventually the ashes were returned to Hayward, his son, and then Hayward told Tony and I, and we arranged a date when Tony and I would both be able to travel over to London, and we got together with Hayward at Barry's flat in London, which Hayward by that point was living in, and we had a lovely visit. We had some lovely red wine that Barry would have appreciated very much.
He would have approved.
He would have approved. And then we went around the corner from Barry's apartment, and the next block over, there's a place called the St. James's Square Garden, which is a one block, lovely fenced garden in central London, near St. James's area. And in one corner of that garden, there is a huge bronze of a deer, a stag with the antlers and everything. And that was where Barry had scattered Sydney's ashes years before when she had passed away. And Hayward had invited Tony and I there to scatter Barry's ashes. And so the three of us, it was sunset by that point. And we scattered Barry's ashes there amongst the flowers around the base of that big life-size bronze stag. So if anyone ever goes to London, and if you go to the St. James's Square Garden and you see that big bronze stag, which is right behind Barry in that photo there, that's where his ashes were scattered, and that's where his wife Sydney's ashes were scattered as well. And in that picture, Barry is sitting on the memorial bench, which we had established for Sydney. So that bench was dedicated to Sydney. And then after Barry's passing, we had another bench installed, which was dedicated to Barry. And so there were two. And then eventually that got combined into one bench. And so if you, again, go to that St. James's Square Garden Park, you will find the memorial bench dedicated to Barry and Sydney, which is still there.
That's right. The bench is there that memorializes both of them. It's not quite in the same location where Barry is sitting right there in that photo, but it's just a little bit ways away in the park.
Yeah. So that's the story of that particular photo, and that was, you know, just again, it was such a loving testament to the friendship that we had with Barry, that we were, you know, that Hayward knew that was so special, and that he invited us to be with him to scatter Barry's ashes.
I was just going to say that was so special that he included you, you know, to do that, because that's really very heartfelt.
Yeah.
It was an amazing day. It really was.
Yeah, and it's something that you'll always remember and cherish too.
Yeah. So whenever I'm in London, I always go back to the park and see the memorial bench. Yeah.
And kind of fast forwarding though now. Actually, I just was going to say there's been a couple of books that you have now. Barry had the one book that was I was going to say not a memoir, but it was really an autobiography, right?
Right. The original was called Pulling Faces, Making Noises. And that came out in, I'm going to say 2003, I believe. And then a little while after that, McFarland Publishers in the United States brought out his memoir, which is based on much of that material. And it's called Remember with Advantages.
It's shorter. Yeah. Remember with Advantages. That one you can order right now. It's available. You can find it on Amazon, on the McFarland Publishers website. Yeah. So that's basically the culmination of the autobiography project, which is what we had begun with Barry. And then we went on and we did a number of other books as well. We did a book of his one-man show. We did a book of other scripts that he'd written for Canadian radio, which that book is called Stories of the Theater. We did. Which other ones did we do while Barry was with us? I know we did several. We did a couple after Barry was gone.
Right.
And one of which is one of the ones that I'm personally most proud of, which is called Valiant for Truth, which accounts Barry's lifelong association with George Bernard Shaw, who was one of the greatest playwrights of that century. And Barry knew Shaw when he was when Barry was quite young, and Shaw was the one of the mentors who would come in and teach these kids in acting school. So Barry knew Shaw for a long time, and then he went on to be. Well, no, he didn't know him for a long time. He knew him when he was young, but then he went on to be the president of the Shaw Society in London, and he went on to be the artistic director of the Shaw Festival in Niagara-on-the-Lake in Ontario for a season. And so all of those things are, and he starred in endless numbers of Shaw productions. I think he probably played in every Shaw production
He did.
over the years. And so that's what is accounted for in this particular book. And I think this is one that I'm really proud of because it's just a really, really entertaining read, really interesting read.
And it's amazing too in regards to Barry because his background. I mean, I was reading too that I guess he was maybe about 15 years old and he had gotten a scholarship, I guess,
to the Royal Academy.
Yeah, that's incredible. So that really opened the doors, and that's where everything started. So when you're talking about a long history of just all the different productions and the talent that he amassed over those years, it was something. I mean, it was critical to his success. But you're talking about somebody that could do any type of role, was so diverse, and like Shari was commenting, I mean, when you see him just in his performances, I mean, I've seen him in different, whether it be television productions or what have you. There's some actors that are almost like chameleons. They can just go into the role, and you don't see them as that person that they were previously, or even as themselves. You see them as the character that they are portraying.
Even his most famous roles, were Victor Bergman in Space 1999 and Lieutenant Gerard in The Fugitive.
Yeah.
Very, very different characters, completely different accent because he's doing an American accent in The Fugitive. And he was the most hated man in America during that time. And he went from being the most hated man to being the most beloved person on Moonbase Alpha.
Exactly. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, and when you think too, if I remember correctly, if I'm getting my history correct, so The Fugitive was on for 4 seasons, and the very last episode was the most watched for, I believe, at least 15 years, and then it was when MASH did the final episode that exceeded the viewership. But that final episode of The Fugitive had held that record because everyone was tuning in when Lieutenant Gerard was going to track down Dr. Kimball, David Jansen in The Fugitive. But a lot of history there. So yeah, great point about the 2 different characters, Bob.
Mm-hmm. And so many others, because he did hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah.
Well, he did thousands of roles over his career. I mean, I think that it was calculated that it was about 3,000 or over 3,000 roles that he played between all of his stage, all of his TV and film work and everything. Huge number of roles.
And radio. Can't discount radio. Yeah. So many hundreds of roles he played on the radio.
Yes. In England and in Canada and in the US.
Did he indicate what his favorite medium was by any chance, or did he ever, or really?
I don't think. I think I know he said that he enjoyed all of it, and that he had acted in all these different mediums to date, and he said he hadn't acted. What was it, on ice or on the high wire? But
and he was willing to try.
That's funny. Hey, I just want to say hi to Jeff Rubel. Jeff is joining us from Utah, and he's out there. So he's saying, hey, guys.
Hey, Jeff.
Good to see you out there. So, yeah, let's get into the crux, though, in regards to this book. And it's pretty, their relationship, Barry and Sydney's, when you talk about, 60 years, that's incredible. And just, I've had the opportunity to read through the book a little bit, and just some of the letters that he wrote to Sydney. The love was just so apparent, and it's so heartfelt. And I think it's wonderful that you actually were able to capture this and then bring this to light and to share it with the folks that are fans of both Barry and Sydney, and just to bring it out there. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, the way it came about was because after Barry passed away, Tony had a great idea that we could be involved in helping to archive Barry's collection of theatrical memorabilia from his entire career. And we found a home for that at the University of Guelph in Ontario, Canada, which for some reason, I don't know why, but they have the largest theatrical archive in all of North America.
Wow.
And there was a professor there who knew Barry and was willing to sponsor the creation of the Barry Morse collection under the umbrella of his, involvement with the archives. So we were able to do that. So all of Barry's collection, incredible amounts of things, came from his son Hayward to Tony and myself, and then through us to Guelph to the University Archives. Mm-hmm. And amongst those things was the incredible collection of letters that Barry and Sydney had exchanged throughout their 60 years. Mm-hmm. And not just letters on paper, but also audio cassette recordings that they would send to each other at different times. And so having all that material, Tony and I archived it for ourselves, and then sent it on to the actual archive in the University of Guelph. But we had all that material, and it occurred to us at some point that wouldn't there, probably also because of the play Love Letters that we did twice with Barry, with June Lockhart, and then we also did it in 1999, where Barry performed it with Barbara Bain in Los Angeles. So we'd done that play with Barry twice, and the idea of a play where two people are exchanging letters stuck with us. And then we had all these letters of Barry and Sydney's, and we thought, well, we could do something kind of similar to that, but from an actor's point of view, because Sydney was also an actor, and they met in repertory theater in England when they were both young actors. And that was such a wonderful kind of touchstone to begin this. And we thought that would make an incredible play. So we went about going through all of their letters and all of their recordings to each other and identifying the core pieces that would form a backbone, a narrative thread for this story of their lives in play form. And that's what we did. And we created it. It was called Two for the Road. And we did a staged reading of it in 2017 in Parsippany, New Jersey, at a convention that Roy organized. And that was terrific fun because a great friend of ours, all of ours, called Ryan Case, who may or may not be out there watching today, but Ryan is a terrific actor, incredibly versatile actor. And Ryan played the role of Sydney in this staged reading. And I took the role of Barry. I was nowhere near as good as Ryan, of course. But Ryan was wonderful. And we did this reading for fans. And I think people were really, really blown away by it. Because not only does it tell their love story from the beginning to the end, but it also shows the ups and downs of their lives. Because it wasn't all, perfect. It wasn't all wonderful. There were
some bumps on the road.
Yeah.
They had some very, very difficult times. And we didn't shy away from including that in the play because it's truthful, and everyone has difficult times in our lives. And it's nice to know that it's not just you, it's not just us. It's also, these actors that we love and admire. They have difficult times.
And I think people appreciate that more because they can relate then. You can connect more with that. So I think it's really important that that's done.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say hi to Nick McCarty's joining us. I want to say hi to Nick. And then also May just joined us, and she's joining us from Canada as well. And she said, hi, everybody. I'm just dropping in on my coffee break. She just wanted to say hi. Thanks for being out.
I'm hearing crickets.
Yeah, I'm hearing them too. That was weird.
Tony, go ahead.
What was your last question? I'm sorry.
Oh, we were talking about the play specifically, and I was saying how it was generated, and we're getting to the book, but leading to the book the book became an offshoot later on, but because of the play.
Right. And in addition to the letters that they exchanged, the audio recordings they later on they would exchange in the 60s and 70s. There were also times where Barry was a little bit more cut off. He did a production in New Zealand, for instance, and he kept a journal. He kept a little diary of his work. And he did this several times on different productions. Another time was in the Yukon, in the north of Canada. He was filming a movie called Klondike Fever, and he kept journals, which he did specifically in order to share with Sydney when he returned home, so that he could sort of see how things were going, in those weeks when he was away and had very little contact.
Interestingly, I'll say sometimes they weren't even meant for Sydney. Sometimes he just did it for himself. And that's the case with part of the journal, at least, that he did when he was in LA in the mid 80s, shooting a pilot for a series called The Covenant, which didn't go through. It was just a pilot. But that was a particularly soul-searching time for him. And there's some really deep material in that journal that he wasn't doing necessarily for Sydney. A lot of it is really worded to himself, but he's just writing his thoughts down. And I might even find a little example of that to read. But
and so a lot of this material is there and had never really been fully shared or been available, and so that's been also brought forward and put into the book.
Yeah, and it really gives you an idea about the person, which is, something that, again, the readers can relate to and also connect with potentially too, because it's somebody that they've gotten to know on screen, but then seeing how it affected his personal life and what the different things and challenges that Barry was going through. And it's an eye opener, really. So it's wonderful that this is able to be shared. And Bob, were you able to? Did you have?
Yeah, I do. I have a little quote here, which is from the book. It's well into the journal that he kept during his time in LA shooting The Covenant. So it's quite far into the journal. But at this point, he's feeling homesick. He's missing Sydney. He's missing London. He's hating being in LA, particularly where he is. He's having to shoot a TV pilot he's not enjoying necessarily. He's hating having to commute to the sets every day because he's having to drive himself and he's not enjoying the LA traffic.
Right.
He's feeling down about all kinds of elements of his life at this point, and he's been wandering around and moping, and he's come back to his room and he's written, amongst some other things, he wrote, "Late afternoon, just drove about aimlessly, now 5-ish and back at hotel. Suppose if I hadn't wasted so much of my life, I shouldn't be feeling so bleak now that I'm getting on." There's a good ironical title. "There's so much I don't understand about myself. I treat Sydney harshly too often, yet I'm lamed without her. Have I missed some career I should have had, or am I just not up to much? The whole thing has swept by so swiftly. I mustn't waste any more, and yet I'm so crippled by dreads."
Yeah.
That's powerful.
It's very powerful, and that's coming from somebody I think the three of us would agree we view as being very successful in his own way and really achieving, the top, so to speak. But then it's how you feel as an individual that, everything is perception, and everything is also about how you internalize different things. One person's success may be another person's failures, or even vice versa. It's just that, how we feel ourselves and how we feel we should be, or maybe potentially where we want to be. And to hear something like that coming from him, you wouldn't think that, just because of his resume. I mean, it's incredible. But again, what is success and how is that defined? And
also, I mean, anyone who's getting to the point of life where you might, have a midlife crisis of your own,
right.
Or you have a major health scare, or you have anything significant happen in your life like that, and you question, am I doing the right thing? Am I wasting my time? What should I be doing? You have that kind of recounting of who you are and where you are in your life.
Right.
That's what he was doing. But just the fact that he wrote it down for himself, that was obviously for himself, because the way he referred to Sydney in it, he wasn't intending to give it to her. But the fact that he kept it, as well. He didn't just write it down and get rid of it. He kept it. There was something important to it. And so showing that the three-dimensionality of who he was as a human being is the wonderful thing that we got to do by including material like that.
There's a lot of humanity in that.
Yeah, and that time when he was filming Covenant in LA, it was 1985, and I think I'm right to say that the month before he left for LA for that, it was going to be, I think, a 6-week shoot. That's when Sydney was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and so he was leaving her behind in London to fly to LA to take up this pilot for the series, which everyone thought was going to be picked up for a series, and then that gave him further worry, about what would they do, if this is picked up as a series. Would Sydney have to come with him, move to LA? He would have to find a place to live. There were so many thoughts going through his mind in those diary entries.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fascinating.
It's really fascinating reading. All of these opportunities, these times that he spent away, they're all fascinating reading, and they all have a little bit different tone to them. When he's shooting in Canada, he was in the Yukon and in British Columbia and wintertime. And again, he was isolated. He was away from Sydney. He was struggling with the material because he didn't love the script. And he made a comment about Rod Steiger, who was one of his co-stars, being very difficult to work with because I think he took forever to do anything. There's a terrific story in there recounting of a bumpy plane journey with a little tiny prop plane and some of the cast and crew in it, and Barry was there, and they were drinking and playing cards as this plane was sort of going up and down, and and they were thinking they were going to crash into the mountains or something. That's a wonderful story. There's so many great stories. When he was in New Zealand, he was shooting the Ray Bradbury Theater episode with Eileen Brennan. And of course, everybody knows Eileen Brennan from Private Benjamin and so many Clue, a lot of comedy things. But this was a time after she had her accident, because she had that horrible car accident. And this was a couple of years after, so she'd recovered enough to be able to work. But Barry found that she was considerably damaged or emotionally rattled by that, and he found her incredibly difficult to work with because she would never do the same thing twice. She was always changing what she was doing. And he basically said that she's one of those kinds of actors who's never happy unless everyone else is miserable. So, but these are, again, these are just the wonderful stories that he has. Joseph Shaw, who was also his co-star in that, he has some wonderful stories about things that they did together and meals and things like that.
I saw that he commented, I guess he worked with Angie Dickinson and Lauren Green, and I think
that was also in Klondike Fever.
Yeah,
along with Rod Steiger. Yeah. He had a great description for Angie Dickinson.
I think he said that she has a kind of faded beauty that was perfect for the character.
Yeah. I thought that was a beautiful description. Faded beauty.
Faded beauty, yeah. And then Lauren Green, I think he was commenting about his hearing. If I remember.
Lauren couldn't hear anything. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, I think Barry commented that Lauren looked considerably older than Barry did, even though I think Barry was older than Lauren, I believe.
Yeah, Lauren, I mean, sadly, Lauren Green, when he passed, he wasn't that old. I mean, by today's standards, I mean, it wasn't like he was in his 90s. I think he was in his maybe late 60s or early 70s. So, yeah, to Barry's point about that. I just want to say hi to two more folks that joined. I see Philip is out there. He's saying hello.
Hello.
And also Jack Daly is out there. He commented, he said, I have been a huge Barry Morse fan since an early age. As a small boy, he scared me as the driven Lieutenant Gerard on The Fugitive. And as a teenager, his performance as Victor Bergman helped sell the realism of life in space. Whether chasing one-armed suspects on Earth or one-eyed monsters in space, he was always a class act who commanded the screen and delivered the goods. He is missed.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Jack. And John Haig, the Haig is out there. Welcome, John. And he also commented and he said, there is more of a Space 1999 question. Did he ever mention that he wanted Bergman to be a bit eccentric, walking around in tennis shoes and such? He mentioned this to me back in 2000 at the New York 1999 convention.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Oh, sure. For sure. Barry didn't want to wear the costume. He wanted to have Bergman in old cardigans and the elbows out and patched and all, stuff like that. He wanted Bergman to be more eccentric than he eventually was presented on screen. But that's not the way the show went. So, and also, kind of in a way, I'm glad that he didn't do that because those things themselves are kind of a stereotype,
right,
of another kind, right? Sure. So, I think it maybe is a good idea that didn't end up happening in the end.
No, the character that he created from the creation of the character in the scripts. I mean, that was his own vision. I mean, what he brought. I mean, he brought the humanity and to life in the episodes. John just commented and said, "That's awesome. Thank you for answering."
Yeah, of course. I think that cardigan wearing professor ended up showing up in the second season of Buck Rogers.
Yes, Alfred Hyde White praying him. That's right, Dr. Goodfellow. Yeah. Yep, I agree. That's absolutely great comment, Bob. That's right. In regards to that, and I derailed myself, so I apologize.
That's okay. We're talking about the book, and you've got some pictures.
Yes, so let me do that. And speaking of these pictures, wonderful photos, and I would like to share going to the very first one. So here we go. And that's their wedding.
Yes. The wedding picture on the left there. Sydney was wearing, Barry called it a beautiful leaf green dress. That was in London when they got married.
And that was in 1939. So Barry would have been 24 years old there. Wow.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I'll say so that was a few years after they met.
21. I'm sorry. He was born in 18. I did it again.
When they met, as I said earlier, they met in repertory theater, and Barry tells a wonderful story, and it's in the book, but I'll tell you a quick version of it, where in those days there was a publication called The Stage that all the actors received, and it accounted for all the different theatrical touring troupes around the UK, and it would have lists of the troupes and where they were performing. And he kept seeing the name Sidney Sturgess. And he pictured an actor, a handsome young male actor, a lot like himself. And he was kind of concerned that one day he'd end up in a troupe with Sidney Sturgess, and that they'd have to have a pretty serious talk about who would play the strapping young hero roles, So then they finally did end up in a company together, and he was being introduced to so and so and so and so and so and so, and this is Miss Sidney Sturgess. And Barry said he was dumbfounded, open-jawed. He dropped his raincoat and his pencil and his script, and they were married 6 weeks later.
Wow.
But when they met, Sydney, as Barry said, Sydney was already engaged to a perfectly respectable young doctor. So he had to talk her out of that to begin with. So that's kind of the beginning of their story together. And that's, of course, accounted in the book. And then they got married, and then they had 60 years together.
That's wonderful. That is you talk about a wonderful story. Wow.
And right after they got married, Barry ended up coming down with tuberculosis and being in a sanatorium where people were dying of tuberculosis, and thankfully he recovered. But he was in a what was it? Cretan sanatorium. Yeah.
I did not know that. Wow. That's really scary.
Mm-hmm. And in all those later years, Barry always had a bit of a recurring cough. And it was, largely attributable to the fact that he had tuberculosis those years before. Also, that's why he wasn't able to serve in the war and remained an actor during that time. Because of his tuberculosis, he wasn't eligible to be in the military.
So indirectly, it may have even saved his life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And again, those things are recounted in the book as well. In letters between Barry and Sydney at that time, and he's writing to her from the sanatorium, and he's saying things like, his friend so and so died, was taken out, and it's incredible just to be able to, through his letters, bear witness to that.
How long was he in? Do you know exactly, or how long was he dealing with the illness?
I would have to refer to Tony, or I'd have to check.
Okay. It was quite a number of months.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere between maybe 8 or 10 months, something in that neighborhood, I think.
Oh my goodness, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So
she would send him things like sweaters and food coupons, because food was rationed at that time, and just amazing stories of a completely different time, very different from anything that we've experienced in our lives.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and they believed at that time in the benefits of fresh air to cure tuberculosis. And he described, I think, the room he was in as a kind of a horse box, open to the elements. So
literally open air, like a horse stable, So they were freezing cold in England in the wintertime, at least part of it. But the ironic thing was that they never stopped them from smoking.
Oh my goodness. Again, a different time, right? So then after that, they got past that hurdle, so to speak, and then they were reunited. And it's just incredible, though, when you think about their 60-year journey together, and very very special, though, the way that they would write to each other. And Barry would record. I mean, that in itself is not everybody would do something like that. You know what I mean? And I think it's almost just because of the background, but I think it's very romantic too that they did that.
And that Barry kept, or that Sydney kept. They both kept pretty much all the letters that they exchanged. We did find that there were some gaps here and there.
Sure.
But generally they kept everything. And so that was wonderful. And then we were able to reproduce some of those letters in the book as well. We didn't obviously many of them are included in forms of typed form, but we included a selection of letters that are reproductions of actually their handwritten letters between each other, so that people can see their handwriting and the way that they actually, the way that those correspondences actually looked. There's a couple more.
Yeah.
There's a sweet envelope This is the last correspondence that Sidney ever that we know of that Sidney ever sent to Barry. But I thought that was a very sweet front of the envelope on this side, and
Right.
then on the other side is the actual note that was within. Yeah.
Again,
So
very heartfelt.
it is heartfelt, and it's lovely. Just sweet for us to be able to share with people what those looked like. These were the last notes. Well, this one, sorry, on this side is actually the last note that we had from Barry to Sidney as well. So just to be able to include those things as part of the 60-year love that they had, and to be able to share that with people, that was the mission that we were on when we were wanting to do this book.
Well, I think it's coming through very, very clearly and on a very positive level. So, thank you for doing that. Michelle commented and she said, Barry and Sydney were a lovely couple. He always doted on her. I had a chance to meet them both at the convention in Ohio. Very loving and giving. Was worried about me when I saw him in New York City and my travels back to Connecticut and wanted me to call him to make sure I got home okay. He also called me after I had Mark to make sure I was okay. He was a lovely, caring person and a class act. Sydney was lovely. She never suffered fools, but loved her to death. Wow.
Lovely. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Michelle. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Michelle. So now, in regards, I want to actually show a couple more photos too. Let me just bring those up.
That picture was taken in Spain, and they had a home in Spain in the 70s. And there's a fantastic accounting of their time in Spain together in this book. But that's where that particular picture was taken, was in Spain.
Gotcha. Aw.
That's a sweet picture of them. And you guys probably can't see it, but on his sweater, his sweatshirt, there's a saying, which is a quote from George Bernard Shaw, which says, "I have not yet reached my senior years."
And then this was the other photo that we were looking at earlier then. Yeah.
So those pictures are in the book, along with a whole bunch of other pictures. And we were really, really pleased that this book we were able to have the photos reproduced in color. So when you're actually looking through this book, the photos in the book are in color, not black and white. So we were very, very happy about that. Here's another really nice picture of Barry and Sydney at the front door of their place in Spain.
Very nice.
For example, but there's a lot of pictures in the book, so that's a nice aspect of it as well.
Now, in regards to, go ahead, Tommy.
I was just going to say that was another period in Spain when Barry was having sort of thoughts about being an actor, thinking he might step back and concentrate more on writing. And that was one of the reasons that they wanted to go to Spain, to sort of get out of the rat race, so to speak, and have a little bit of a calmer life. And he thought he would write, but he was eventually pulled back into acting.
Yeah.
Which is our gain. I mean, he was just so good at it. I remember getting excited because there would be After Space, and I pretty much watched. I mean, again, this is the 1970s. I was probably what? You're talking 11, 12 years old when Space was on. I was 9 in 75. So you're talking in the later 70s. I was barely 13 years old. So if I would catch him, it would be because he was doing maybe a science fiction production or something along the lines, but I'd be very excited to see him. But I remember him being in the Martian Chronicles, and it was great to see him in that. And then if there were other things that would, come up along the way, it was always a pleasure just to have that opportunity to see him on the screen.
Yeah, I think the first production I saw him in on screen in the movie theater was a film called Funeral Home. It was about late 1980 or early 1981, I think, around that time frame.
He said that's the movie. He said that's the movie everyone was dying to get into.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Now, if folks want to get the book, where is the best way to direct them?
There's a couple of good options. One of them is the revitalized barrymorse.com website. That has information on Barry and the books and links to purchase. Another way is to go directly to Amazon and just pop in the title of the book. It's available on Amazon US, Amazon Canada, Amazon UK, all the major sources.
So wherever you are, you can order it through Amazon.
Okay, just want to make sure we're good with
Just
that.
put in 2 for the Road, Barry Morse, and
it'll come right up.
You'll find it.
Yeah, and that's what I did. I got it on Amazon. So
yeah. Thank you, and then leave us glowing reviews.
yeah, and that's very important, folks. So make sure you do that. Take the time out to do that. That's very much appreciated. Now, the other thing I wanted to touch upon is something also that you did with Barry. And my understanding is that this was produced, at least the live footage that you did with Barry was done in 2002 was this in Ohio at a convention? Am I correct?
It was at one of those Volcon conventions that I was mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
And we were there to do an appearance with Barry. It was an autograph show and a production of Merely Players, his one-man show. So we were doing that, but there was a fan who showed up, and he wanted to have Barry shoot a Return of Victor Bergman, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd written a script which we didn't think was appropriate, but he was going to be there, and he had a camera, and so we thought, well, let's just come up with a different script. So the night before this fan was going to be there, Tony and I essentially just improvised writing a short Return of Victor Bergman script, what that might be. We didn't have the time to do a lot of research. We didn't have anything with us at that point to work with. We just did it off the top of our heads. Came up with a short script that we knew Barry would probably be okay with doing. Nothing too complicated. We knew he wasn't going to be able to memorize it. He was going to have to be reading it. And so we didn't want it to be too long. But to touch on a few of the points that the fans would really want to see, and also that were important for Barry.
Sure.
So we came up with that. We showed it to Barry. He liked it. He agreed to do it. And I believe, Tony can correct me, but I believe he actually recorded it in the evening after doing the production of Merely Players, his one-man show. And I think he was quite tired.
He was. But it fit the character. It fit Bergman at the time for that piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we knew that at some point there would hopefully be the option of having something, maybe blue screened or green screened in behind him. So we shot it against a blank hotel wall, and the only shirts that Barry had with him were buttoned down with collars, so we knew that wouldn't work. But I had a black T-shirt, and so we thought, again, plain, that would work. Perhaps in the future it could get digitally covered up with something else, but we had him in a black T-shirt against a blank hotel backdrop. There was nothing in the way of fancy lighting or fancy sound equipment, and even the resolution of the digital recording was a low resolution. It was, at the time, it was like a home camcorder kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we did it. And then we all went back to our respective places, and I don't know quite how the tape got lost for a number of years.
Well, something happened. There was a fan in Seattle who had some video experience, and he offered to try to do something with it for us. And so the video was sent out to him. His name was Aaron, I think.
Aaron Carlson. He's credited in the credits for video. I think video storage, which is a comedic way of saying he had the tape in his possession for a long time.
Years. Yes. Somehow he ended up having it for, I don't know, 5 years or 6 years. It was a while.
Yeah.
And
that was the only copy.
Oh, it was only one copy. Yeah.
It was the only copy.
Sense. Yeah. Yep.
We didn't have copies. It was only that one copy. And it kind of got lost with Aaron for a number of years. Again, not taking anything away from Aaron. Aaron's a wonderful guy. But he did have that for a very long time. And then we got it back. And by that point, I was friends with Eric Bernard, who a lot of space fans will know. Eric is a great fan and friend who lives in Montreal, and did the Space 2099 altered versions of the episodes where he was changing the special effects and putting in stuff like that. He did some re-edited episodes and all that stuff. Anyway, because of Eric's his profession is in editing and all of that, we said, well, Eric, could you do something with this and turn it into a Return of Victor Bergman short film that we would be able to share with the fans? And so Eric did do that, worked with us on it. We picked the clips to use, all of that sort of thing, to create a bit of a narrative to go around the little bit of footage we shot with Barry. And so that was wonderful. We shared that with fans. It was shown at conventions. It was on YouTube, all those kinds of things. And then, more recently, what happened was Anderson Entertainment were working on a number of upcoming releases. And the possibility arose. I think Tony suggested to me one day, what about trying to get The Return of Victor Bergman onto one of these upcoming Anderson official releases of Space 1999? And I said, okay, sure. So I wrote to Jamie Anderson. Jamie replied saying, great idea. Basically put us in touch with another person at Anderson who was coordinating, additional material for their upcoming releases. And then, so they were willing, yes, terrific, but a problem arose.
Yes.
Because Eric had used video footage and music from a couple of other major feature films. One of them was Contact, and I think Gattaca was the other one. And of course, it would have been impossible for Anderson Entertainment to pay for the rights to use that material. And so suddenly it was a big question, well, this can't be released in the form that it's in. What can we do? So we checked with Eric Bernard, and Eric was not able, because he was too busy, he was unable to assist us in changing it.
Well, and the other piece, to augment what you're saying, the other piece to that is that there was a time crunch. They needed the footage because they were finalizing, putting out this Blu-ray, and they needed to have, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks.
Wow.
Very short turnaround. Yeah. And so Tony and I said, okay, well, we don't have Eric. And I said, well, I could ask Catherine Bujold, because Catherine Bujold is another wonderful friend of ours, also in Montreal. And, Catherine has been so generous in so many ways for years, helping people with everything from banners for our Facebook pages to literally what she did in this case, which is recreating The Return of Victor Bergman. She did it really quickly. She replaced the missing elements, the elements we couldn't use. She generated new special effects footage that she created herself. She chose new pieces of music from 1999 so that the copyright would be fine. Yep. And she did this for us in record time, and we got it. We got it to Anderson Entertainment in time, and so we are immensely grateful to Catherine.
Catherine Bujold is just amazing. I cannot. you can't. No, I mean, she is. I mean, she knocks it out of the park. She does a grand slam every time. She is just wonderful, and she's
very talented.
She is, and
can I just say, Catherine Bujold also did our cover for this book, Two for the Road. I had created rough versions of it, and but Catherine is the one who actually did the cover that was used and uploaded to Amazon. So
I love that photo of them too. Just to comment really quickly about it, I love the way even with like Barry's hair, it's just kind of like flowing in the wind.
Yeah.
And then also with Sydney, it's just such a natural, real type of image, and just the way they're embracing each other is the way the photo embraces, I would say, us as readers. It's just, it draws you in. It's a very warm image. So
special thing about that photo as well is you can see maybe that he's holding a book that says Bradford on it. And what they were doing, this photo was taken during their 50th anniversary celebrations. They did what they called their golden journey. And they recreated the journey that they went on when they were young actors, first together on tour amongst the different parts of the UK. And they went to all those spots where they had first met and first gotten to know each other. So that picture was taken during their golden journey, their 50th anniversary.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So back to Bergman, the return of Victor Bergman. Catherine Bujold came through. She was incredible. Yeah. She recreated it, made it better than it ever was before. And we then were lucky enough that Anderson Entertainment included it on their Super Space Theater release. Now, this is the limited edition, the new Volume 2, which also includes the new film that they created called Prisoners in Space. And The Return of Victor Bergman is included on that disc as a bonus feature on the Prisoners in Space disc.
Yeah, that's the 5th disc. Yeah, because it also has Spazio 1999 and Prisoners in Space, which for the Space 1999 fans out there, it's taking the episodes Dorzak and Devil's Planet and combining them as the other episodes had been done originally with the other, as in the Metamorph and, which was the Cosmic Princess and Space Warp. And then also you have Destination Moonbase Alpha, Alien Attack, Journey Through the Black Sun. It's the same type of premise with that. So yes, this is definitely on my want list, my wish list, because I definitely want to see the update in regards to this. So I look forward to seeing the return of Victor Bergman on that, and then also the other compilations that are included.
Yeah, they did a great job with Prisoners in Space. They also, it's not just that they kind of combined those two episodes, but they added in other little bits from other episodes, and they really did a tremendous job, and they put a huge amount of work into that. So it's a terrific box set of the 1999 films, and yeah, I have it here, but I highly recommend people get it. And I think it is a limited edition, so I'm not sure how many there are, but
yes. And with that said, you can go to the Jerry Anderson store. So to direct folks, it is going to the website, which is going to be www.jerryanderson.com. So it's listed there. Definitely check it out.
Well, absolutely. And we're very pleased and proud to have the return of Victor Bergman on this set and have it, sort of an official release. There's quite a backstory to Barry's involvement with the show and how he was let go and not brought back on for season 2. And, I think there was some, on Barry's part, there was some regret, there was some disappointment, maybe a little bit of anger too.
Yeah.
And Bob can speak a little more to that.
Well, it's detailed. If anyone has my book, Destination Moonbase Alpha, which is right there, if anyone has that, it's detailed in that book from Barry's own diaries, his personal notebook diaries that he kept. Thank you. There you go. That's even more dog-eared than my copy. But he kept a journal for himself, just point form, of all the important stuff that happened. And that time period is detailed. And keeping it short, Barry did want to return to space 1999 for year 2. And what happened was he was given an offer which he called derisory. It included a 33% pay decrease and no transportation, which he'd previously been given transportation from his flat in London to Pinewood Studios. So they were cutting his transport, giving him a 1/3 pay decrease, and that's an insult, really. So what he did was he tried to negotiate, which makes perfect sense, right? But he didn't get anything back. And then his agent didn't get anything back. But then he tried directly to reach out to Jerry Anderson, to speak to Jerry. And you'll see in the journal entries, he reaches out repeatedly, is told that Jerry will call him back, and Jerry doesn't, and Jerry doesn't, and Jerry doesn't. And time goes on, and he knows production's going to be getting closer. And so eventually he instructs his agent to accept the original offer. And, pay decrease and all, because he wanted to go back to the show. And at that point, he's told his services are no longer required, which is, he was treated so badly, so rudely in that period of time that it tainted his memories and his recollections about the show afterwards, and initially there was that anger, and it came out in interviews in the press and things where people would see Barry saying things, about he's going to go play with the grown-ups for a while, insulting Jerry and Sylvia as producers. But that was him kind of smacking back at them for the treatment that he had received. I should say not Sylvia, because Sylvia wasn't involved at that point. It was sort of smacking back at Jerry. And
he was hurt. He was hurt. And, Bob, I remember I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was in 2012. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember you because you had the journal with you, and you were reading from the journal at that event in 2012. And I remember when and it, like you said, it's in your book as well, but it was almost like a knife going in, because, it's, again, he is this is a business. I mean, he's an actor, and there's the creative side, and then there's the, as an audience member, we love, the character, and it would have been wonderful. And I have those recollections of reading, about 1999 in the newspapers. I think it was in the New York Times and what have you. And then they were talking about the changes, and we all, as fans, know everything that went down, and having that brought out, and that Barry wasn't coming back, but hearing that and having him be offered less and then succumbing to it. I mean, it just, any of us that, in the working world, you think about it, it's like, it's an insult. I mean, it's just that, and we've heard the stories too, in regards to Nick Tate and with Nick and Xenia, especially, how, and even some others, where year one was very family orientated. It was very, it was a different type of atmosphere. Year two, and I'm not taking away from anybody that was involved in that production, but in regards to, I guess, the behind the scenes, it's just that the business aspects of it, it was like there were only 4 people that were really contracted, and then everybody else wasn't. It was almost like they were day players, and it's like you're working in a job, and then what happens is you're on a hiatus, you come back, and then everything is so different. And then for Barry, I mean, to be only getting being offered a third less, and trying to negotiate to get more, and then it's not being responded to, and then you try to communicate. It's like the equivalent of being ghosted,
then you're told your services are no longer required.
I mean, that's like a double whammy. So I can only imagine how he felt. And of course, I mean, I know a lot of people, family members, that have, were treated like garbage. And to this day, you're talking almost like 20, 30 years, they are resentful. And you'll hear these stories at, family gatherings and everything. And it's not a happy type of discussion. So there is no reason for Barry to really, to have felt really, it's understandable the type of responses that he would give to the press and everything.
Totally. But then the other side of that is that he did enjoy the show. He loved his co-stars.
Yep.
He loved getting opportunities in later years at conventions and other things, to be able to see Martin and Barbara again, to work with Barbara again, to see his other co-stars. He remained friends with Xenia Merton. Tony and I had dinner together with Barry and Xenia more than once.
See, that's the creative, and that's the artistic, and that's the almost like the fun, the fulfilling portion of the business. It's the other piece that's the negative, unfortunately.
And when Barry had his little book launch party for his Remember with Advantages memoir, that was in his flat in London, and Xenia was there. I remember going out with Xenia during the day, buying food for the party, buying trays of sandwiches and things. So that was wonderful. There's another sci-fi actor who was there at that too, which was Garrick Hagan from he was in Star Wars. Yeah, he was friends with Hayward, Barry's son Hayward. So Garrick Hagan was there as well. Just to put in another sci-fi reference, because it is Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi show.
Always have the connections. Hey, I just want to say hi to Nancy. Nancy's joining us from Canada, and she commented earlier. She said, "Wow, go Catherine," in regards to when we were talking about Catherine Bujol. Nancy also said, "I adored Victor Bergman."
So did Barry. Barry adored Victor Bergman too. And so when this chance came to recreate Victor Bergman and give a little love letter back to the fans, Barry jumped at it.
Yeah, which exactly, and that shows the love of the character. Lou is out there. I want to say hi to Lou. He said,
"Hey, Lou."
Hi, Lou.
We were talking about you earlier.
Yeah, we were.
Ears were burning.
John commented too earlier. He said, "When Barry passed, I didn't even have a computer yet. I learned it through a British magazine named TV Zone. I remember holding the magazine, turning to the page with his obituary, and just started crying. Gut punched. Yeah, it was very, very sad, John. And Ruby's out there. Ruby, hello. And Ruby's saying, who could blame Mr. Moss? Why shouldn't he had bad-mouthed Anderson in the show? Similar to Leonard Nimoy, fighting for residuals from the original Star Trek when producers, studios pleaded poverty. Yeah, it's unfortunately there's the business side as well as the creative side, but it's again reassuring to know how much he did love Victor and how much
Victor and all those years. He came to every convention he was ever invited to. He loved the fans. He felt that the fans were his adopted grandchildren.
He always pulled out his camera. Everybody would be snapping photos of him, and he would pull out his camera and he'd start snapping away, and everybody would just be like, in awe of that, because it was just so heartfelt.
Yeah, absolutely. So he loved the fans. He loved Space 999. He loved playing Victor Bergman. He wished he could have been in year 2. It's sad that he wasn't, but ultimately we and so many fans had wonderful opportunities to spend time with Barry and to get to know him, and that was really special.
Yeah, I wanted to show the picture I had of I had my photo taken with him in '99. I know you guys have plenty of them, but I was very happy, made me very happy to have that, and I wasn't able to scan it in time, but just such a warm human being, just very gracious.
So we've really felt this is like a full circle moment, with the.
Did you say full circle? Did you say full circle?
I did.
I'm just busting. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tony.
So no, it just comes back around, and he really wanted to do this for the fans, as Bob was saying, and so. I think it's great. It's out there. It's now an official release. I like to think it's now part of canon. So who knows?
Well, Anderson Entertainment acknowledged it, so that says something right there. The fact that they're sharing it on their releases. So definitely, why not?
And I think Barry would be very pleased about that.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's nice that there is that form of so-called closure in a sense, and actually it even kind of left the door open in some ways too to the imagination. So that was another thing. It was cleverly done, and I mean the version that I had seen was from years back, And it's always fun to try to guess, as you're watching, you're thinking, my mind is always going with the, what episode this scene is from, and what, what I mean? And I'm kind of putting the tidbits, but the episodes that were chosen for that, it was done very, very nicely. So everything really, it was a nice story background, and it again, to use your, the term you use, it does kind of come full circle with everything. And Barry is, giving acknowledgement to everything. So it really, it was nice. And I remember reading too that this was first shown at the Journey to Where event in Texas, and I think it was July 16th of 2010, if I remember correctly.
That sounds right.
I think I read that in your book, Bob, and I think I was, if I remember correctly too, I was, the event was going on, and I think Shari and I were up in Canada, believe it or not, and we were at the Redo up at the cottage, and I was thinking the event is going on in Texas, and I'm in I was in Canada, and that was being taken place. So anyway, that was 15 years ago already, which again, time is going by so quickly.
Time gets all mixed up.
It really does. It's another time in another place. But no, I want to thank you guys for coming on. If there's anything else you'd like to share about the book, or before we start to wind down, let me know. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a brief slide. I'm just going to let viewers know, and then we'll come back. And folks, if you have any last minute comments you want to post, please do so. But I just want to remind everybody that Ross and I will be back. We are going to be doing we're going to be doing holiday month, because tomorrow is December 1st, and Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner will be back this Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will be doing episode 281, and it will be the Muppet Christmas Carol, classic 1992 movie that stars the Muppets, and of course Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge. So looking forward to this, kind of getting into the holiday spirit. So don't forget to tune in. But yeah, any last minute comments, guys? Or
I just would thank everybody for watching, and I encourage people to get the book, Two for the Road. It's a lovely testament to Barry and Sydney's 60-year relationship. And, we've talked about various elements from the book, but people will find a lot more in there to enjoy. And I think it's just going to be a really wonderful way for people to get to know them a little bit better.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for having us on the show today. And again, remind people that the Barry Morse website is out there, barrymorse.com. So feel free to stop by there. And again, thanks a lot. We appreciate it.
No, sounds good. I appreciate you coming on. And yeah, folks, I want to say thank you for joining us today, and look forward to seeing you next time. And as I always like to say, even though live long and prosper. Take care, everyone.
All right. Goodbye.